Hey guys, this is the add-on to the part 2 of the series that I've started. I totally forgot on the food part of it. There's a whole section I didn't go over, so I'm going to add this on, make a separate video out of it, and just add it on as episode 2B. Anyway, get your list in case you don't have a list already and start writing it down. And this part was over the food, and I went over the food procurement. Okay, but I didn't go over things like, I went over trapping and whatnot and some hunting, but I didn't go over wild food foraging. There are a lot of good books out there for you to be able to forage for wild edibles, and a lot of them really taste good. There's some websites or some YouTube channels that are really good. One of them is called Learn Your Land. Another one's called Eat the Weeds. You know, there's lots and lots. You just have to Google it or just surf around in YouTube till you find them. But no matter what you learn in the YouTube channels, you might need some sort of visual reference when you're out in the world, in the woods or wherever. You're going to want some sort of a book or something to say, oh, that's what that is. Okay, so you know, there's quite a few books out there. There's survival cards that have pictures and whatnot. I would suggest the books, even though books are kind of heavy, because the books have more detailed information with better pictures, bigger pictures, because there's a lot of plants that look alike. So, you know, I can go over a couple of them that I know on site. One's dandelion, of course. One's cattail. The other one's goosefoot, or it's a weed. They call it goosefoot. That's one of the names for it. But anyway, it's very edible. Dock. There's all kinds of stuff. Anyway, another. If you happen to live in the Sonoran Desert area, Daniel Lionheart has a whole series on the Sonoran Desert on how to survive and what's edible and medicinal and things of that nature. He's got 25 videos on it. Hey, check him out. You know, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to him. He's awesome. Now, another way to get food in a SHTF situation, and you really should start it now, is a garden of some sort, whether that be in containers on your patio if you're in an apartment, even if you're in a house that you're renting and you can't dig up the yard, put out some containers, make a container garden. There's a lot of things you can do. You're going to want to, you know, you can practice with the seeds from Home Depot and Lowe's and Walmart and stuff, but in an SHTF situation, you really need heirloom seeds, okay, so you can save the seeds from year to year. You also need to study up on the heirloom seeds and find out how to save them, okay, because just, you know, pulling them out and throwing them in a pile won't work. Some of them have to go through cold spells and, you know, this, that, and the other. So definitely want to learn, you'll want to learn how to save seeds for the future. That is going to be a huge life-saving event. Okay, if you can grow something and save the seeds where you can grow more next year, you won't starve. So, and just remember, spring is actually the starvation season for most farmers, traditionally back in the olden days, because they had enough food stores to last them through the winter, but by spring, things were running out and they hadn't got a new crop grown yet. So you're going to want to, you know, have quite a few things like cool weather plants. Okay, so especially with the grand solar minimum happening, you're going to want a lot of cool weather plants, shorter growing season plants, something that doesn't take as long to produce food. And for long-term storage, you're going to want things like butternut squash and things of that nature, things that store for a long time in like a root cellar type situation or down in a cool basement. Just remember, you got to keep the humidity up a little bit. You're going to want stuff like that. As far as corn goes, there's a lot of different corns. Depending on, you know, your situation, you may or not be able to grow that. But now the Indians, they have a Hopi blue corn. That's an heirloom seed. There's a red corn, a strawberry corn, whatever they want to call it. But there's a lot of different Indian corns that are heirloom seeds. Okay, your popcorns, I think, now don't quote me on this, I think they're all heirloom type seeds, but I could be wrong. You're going to want to store foods in your home that your stuff that you grow will supplement and hopefully eventually circumvent. Okay, you're going to want to have enough food to get you by for a year. Because let's say the SHTF happens in the fall. Okay, you've got all winter, and you can't plant till the following spring. That doesn't mean you can't get everything ready during the winter, but you still have to have something to get you through until you can get a harvest. Preferably 2 years food, but that's a lot harder to achieve, especially for me. It's almost impossible. But 2 years food would be ideal, and the reason being is because what if your harvest fails? Okay, you got to have something to get you by. But like I said, the wild food foraging, the hunting, the trapping, the fishing, anything that you can do along those lines. Learn how to do the Ojibwe bird trap. Yeah, birds don't have a lot of food on them, but hey, better than nothing, right? I would much rather do that than eat rats and mice, grubs, bugs. Ew. If I was starving, I'd eat it, but I plan to try not to ever be that hungry, because if you're that hungry, you're not doing well. So on your food storage in your home or in your bug out retreat, you're going to have to think about short and long-term food storage. And what I mean by that is like your dehydrated and freeze-dried stuff for your long-term. Okay, you can go to the LDS cannery and they'll ship it to you. You can pay online. Okay, but that's just basics like flour and wheat and oatmeal and macaroni and a few other things. They don't have a lot of selection, but you can get your basics there, and it won't cost you very much. You're going to want to store short-term foods that you're going to want to eat, fairly quickly, but easy to fix stuff, especially for the first little while, because when the SHTF happens, there's going to be, there's this big uproar. There's this big adjustment period, okay, to the new way of things. And at that point, do you really want to have to try to be Amish? Nothing wrong with the Amish. I love them. They're awesome people. But until, you need some short-term, easier to fix stuff to get you by until you get rolling on all the others. Because you're going to have to learn how to make, like sourdough starter and things like that. And, that's a good thing for you to learn right now. Learn how to make your yeast starters. Because right now we have yeast, but we might not later. Vitamins. Super easy to store. Last a very, very long time. Stock multivitamins, because if your diet is not as good as it should be, you might not be getting the nutrients that you need. Okay, and when a person is run down and they don't have the nutrients they need, and they don't have enough food, they make poor decisions. Okay, so a multivitamins would help you. It wouldn't fix it, but it would help you not get to that point and give you the things that you need in your body. Because really what you got to do is you got to outlast the problem. Okay, whatever the problem, whether it be short-term, long-term, local, nationwide, worldwide, whatever the case may be, you prepare to outlast the problem. Whether the problem lasts for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 10 years, 2 days, whatever the case may be, that's what you're preparing for. That's what your preps are for, to get you by, to get you through. Okay, you're going to want, in your bug out bag, you might want some energy bars of some sort. You can make your own. Okay, I'm going to be making my own. I got to get the materials to do it. But mine aren't packaged for long term, so what I'll do is I'll make them and I'll use them on a regular basis. It's super simple. I might do a video on how I make mine. Okay, you might want to consider some of those Datrix survival food things to go in your bag, just for long term. They last for about 5 years. Some of them taste good, some of them don't. Some of them kind of dry tasting. But you know what? They're calories, and it is a calorie game. No matter what you think about it, it's a calorie game. You have to bring in this, as many calories as you expend. Because if you don't bring in as many calories as you expend, you start losing weight. You start losing weight, you're going to start losing. Of course, now someone like me, wouldn't be a bad idea to lose a little weight, and that's okay. But you still have to balance your calorie game. Okay, how many calories are you expending? Are you starting to drop weight really fast because you're out digging a garden by hand and you're only eating 1,200 calories a day? Okay, something like that. You might want to jump it up to 2,500 calories a day, and and double your servings. Now, as far as serving sizes go, with like your long-term food storage, you look on the back and say, oh, there's 47 servings of this. Well, maybe. Okay, you have to figure out how much you eat in one serving and how many calories is one serving, so that you know whether or not you really have 47 servings in that. You might only have 30 or 25. So, when you're looking at it, and it's all fine to say, oh, I've got X amount of servings. I got 365 servings of this. That'll last me a year. It may or may not. Okay, you have to look at your own self and your own personal consumption habits and your body size. Big stout dude's going to need more calories because he's out there chopping wood than a 98-pound 4'11.5" woman that is baking bread. Okay, so you definitely want to look at your own personal needs on that. You're going to have to get a lot of stuff you have to make from scratch, because you just can't stockpile. Well, you probably could, but it could be rather expensive. Enough ready to fix meals. First of all, they're expensive. Second of all, you'll get tired of that same ready to fix meal over and over and over again. You're going to want to spice it up, juice it up, which means you're going to want to store at home a lot of spices. You're going to want to learn how to preserve those spices, like garlic and onion and salt is something that's super easy to store. It doesn't go bad. Okay, you don't necessarily even have to pack it in Mylar bags or vacuum seal it or anything like that. I would put it in a bucket in a Mylar bag and seal it up, but it's not necessarily it doesn't necessarily have to be stored for long term. If it does happen to get clumpy, you just crush up the clumps. It's fine. It's not going to go bad. You might want to consider storing a bunch of flour rather than wheat berries. Now, wheat berries I think can be sprouted, but if you don't have a way to grind that wheat berry into flour, then what are you going to do with it? You can boil it until it's soft, I guess, but then you wouldn't be able to make yourself any tortillas or biscuits or anything, and you're going to have to worry about that too. What are you going to cook it in? If you're going to try to cook bread, what are you going to cook it in? Okay, Coleman has those little stoves that fit on top of grills and Coleman stoves and things, a little oven. But, how much can you store in the way of fuel to run that oven? You need to learn how to make your oven, okay? You might not be able to do big loaves of bread. You might have to do biscuits in a Dutch oven, or get one of those little solar ovens. And, so actually a solar oven's an excellent thing to go for. If you live somewhere where you get a lot of sun, you can cook a lot of things. You put it there in the morning and it's ready in the afternoon. Okay, and it also helps with stealth because there's no smoke. Okay, energy bars, tablets. They have energy tablets too. You're going to have to worry about energy, especially if you're bugging out. So you might want to put some caffeine tablets or some goo. That stuff you buy at the bicycle shop. It's called goo, and it's an energy gel. Okay, something to get you through to where you're going, wherever that may be, whether it be to the mountains or to your retreat or to your buddy's house or whatever the case may be. You might want to consider having something like that. No dose. It's caffeine, right? And on your food, you're definitely going to want to store a bunch of heirloom seeds. Go and get from several different people. You don't want them all from the same place, because what if this person's crops were not that good? What if they stored that wrong? What if the seeds are not viable anymore? And it could happen. I'm not saying it would, but it could, right? And that's a what if, and that's what we would prepare for. So from company A, you'll get some heirloom seeds. Go over to company B and get some more. Go to company C and get some more. Okay, mix it up. Get the biggest variety you can. Okay, learn how to dehydrate your food without electricity. I've got my dehydrator right here, and I had some oranges fixing to go bad, so I put them in here so that they wouldn't be wasted, and they'll make nice little orange slices. Okay, now I have to use these. I'd have to rehydrate them. I was thinking more on the lines of lemonade, orange lemonade. Throw them in some water, maybe with a little sugar, and I've got flavored water. But you can rehydrate those and eat them even, or use them in recipes or whatever. But you need to learn how to dehydrate in the sun. Okay. You can buy dehydrators that'll go outside, but I would suggest you get some wooden framed window screens first of all, because you got to keep insects off of them. Okay, wooden framed metal window screens, and then you can put some trays in there, set that out in the sun, okay, and let it dry. You know, it might take 2 or 3 days to dry it. Pull it in at night so no dew gets on it, or cover it up good with a good plastic tarp, and dehydrate it. A lot of people used to string green beans in what they'd call leather breeches, I think is what they called it. I learned that from the Foxfire book series, okay? I've got the whole series. It's a good series to have. You can't take it with you because it's too many books, way too heavy to tote. But you can order them and get them and read them and learn a bunch of stuff that they taught, or that they used to know back in the 1800s, okay? The Townsends is a YouTube channel, and they go through 1800s recipes, and you may have to do that yourself, is use recipes from way back then. You may not have to, but then again you might. So you want to learn how they did it, right? How they did it, you know, in a clay oven and things of that nature. How they made pemmican, how they, you know, made jerky over a fire, how to tan hides, okay? How to do all that, because if it gets that bad and you do have to leave the city and your place and you end up being, you know, living like Jeremiah Johnson, you're going to have to know how to do that, because your clothes will only last so long. Your shoes will only last so long. You know, your ammunition is only going to last so long. You know, on your hunting, you need to learn how to hand reload shotgun shells and things. David Canterbury, again, has a easy 12 gauge reloading video, okay? And you use solid brass 12 gauge shells, not the ones with the plastic and the little brass tip. These are solid brass. These are brass all the way up, reusable over and over and over again. And then also you might want to consider for that 12 gauge is what they call their inserts, to change your 12 gauge to 45 or 22 shells or 32 shells or 410 gauge. I can't think of the name of them off the top of my head, but the gunadapter.com, that's right, gunadapter.com has those. And that would make a single or double barrel 12 gauge. You could use any ammo in it. You just have to have the right adapter. And they have the short ones and they have the long ones, okay, for the more rifled adapters. That's for the bigger rifle shells, you know. They're not going to be quite as accurate as a long-barreled rifle, but you know, if you come across an old cabin and there's a half a box of 38 shells, but you don't have a 38 or a 357 pistol or lever action rifle, then what are you going to do with them? There's not a whole lot you can do with them except tote them and hope you can trade them off. But if you had the gun adapters, you could use them to hunt something, okay, or protect yourself. Because even if there's a 38 shell in there and you cock that shotgun at somebody, they're going to think there's a shotgun shell in there. Doesn't mean the 38 is less deadly, but most people are not going to face down a shotgun. Okay, that barrel that's this big looks this big when they're looking at it from the end. So that's something to consider as a survival gun. Is a good 12 gauge, either single or double barrel, over under. I wouldn't use that in the pumps, because the gun adapters, those things slide right out. So, you know, if you're trying to pump it, you're going to get all jammed up. I had one guy said, yeah, it would work, but no. You're going to, you definitely need to learn how to preserve your food. A lot of people say, I'm learning canning, and I'm learning this, and I'm learning that. Well, that's fine if you have some way to run your pressure canner. Okay? You need to learn how they did it back in the 1800s, just in case you have to do it that way. Most people dried their foods. Okay? A lot of people made stuff and then poured wax over the top, which is not the ideal thing to keep your food good. I mean, I guess if that's all you had, that's what you had to do. But most people dehydrated most of their stuff. They just dried it. Okay? Because most stuff will dry and save for a long period of time. Now, do keep in mind, some things can't be put in plastic bags after they're dried, or they'll just mold. So, like beef jerky. You can stick it in a plastic bag, yeah, but you better put it in the freezer. Most people back then put their jerky in cloth sacks because it could breathe a little bit and stay drier. Okay. You need to learn how to make lanterns with tallow. Let's say you kill an animal and it's got a bunch of fat. Well, you're going to want to render that fat down so that you can use it for cooking. But then there's some fat that you really don't want to use for your cooking, but you might be able to render it down and make an oil lamp out of it. Okay, like maybe after you've scraped all the fat off of a hide, render it down. Okay, you could feed the cracklings to your dog if you have one. That would be good food for them. They would eat it. They'd love it. And without, you know, feeding your animal out of your stores. So there's a lot of things you can do to procure and save food and find food and hunt food, grow food, because you gotta, you know, everybody has to eat. Nobody can get away from that. Everybody has to eat. Everybody has to drink water. Okay? Without fail. Everybody. Every animal, everything in the world has to eat and drink somehow. Whether they absorb it through their skin or they have to put it through their mouths, they have to do that. So, you know, you'll definitely want to really work on the food end of it and the water procurement, you know, but that's with the water filters and all that other stuff. But this has gone on long enough. I would like, you know, if I could get you to do it, to hit the thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell icon, you know, if you want more notifications of my other videos. Check out my links down below for the EMP Shield unit. It's a $50 off coupon. It's Lady T, Ladyt, all caps. And I will see you guys later, and y'all come back to see me.